Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Sons of Montezuma podcast. Today we are doing a football episode, and of course, I think we all know what the topic is today. The transfer portal. We're going to talk about who is staying and who is going. Join. Okay, everybody, how's it going? I want to thank you first and foremost for joining us here at the Sons of Montezuma podcast. It is a football episode, as we mentioned. Oh boy, it's going to be a fun one today. And well, you guys know it's Mateo San Diego. First and foremost, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. I want to apologize before I introduce our guest. You know, this football season went by, and I got to tell you guys, it literally made me sick. It made me sick. I think for the last 2 weeks, I've been battling this illness ever since the Vegas football trip, and then coming back right back into basketball, and then the football season ended. So a little bit of an apology for not keeping up the way this season was going. The last 6 games or so, it got to be a little bit much on the old immune system. But joining me in a pinch, because K5 James is actually in Florida. He's been there for several weeks now. Right when the season finished, he was off to Florida and to do some training, protecting our borders from sea to shining sea stuff. And boy, yeah, he needs that training. So yeah, you cannot stop him. You can only hope to contain him. It is Mr. Fiend. SD Sports Fiend, welcome. Thank you for stepping in, man.
Thank you. I wish I was coming in better times and better news, but yeah, glad to be here.
Oh boy. So let's start from the beginning, guys. Like I said, the season ended. I don't know if Aztec Fast was exactly the way the season went, but it sure ended fast for me. The Aztecs 3 victories on the season in Sean Lewis's first year at the helm on Montezuma Mesa. And needless to say, it wasn't anything that I think we were all prepared for or expected. I know in a first year for a new head coach, you always expect those bumps in the road. You're bringing in your guys. You're installing new scheme, transfer portal additions. Injuries was a big thing this season, and boy, did it show. But the way the season tailed off at the end was one that just really deflated a lot of people's expectations for this first year. And unfortunately, you got to wear it. Throughout the season, I think talking with a lot of, whether it's K5 James or, still keeping up with Dirtball Dan and Coach C and, of course, Fiend, amongst others in Sons of Montezuma, you share things behind the scenes, but overall, you're expected to, we all want to buy in. We all want to buy into that first year. You want to, take a hold of the momentum with the hire of Sean Lewis and all the newcomers coming in. And so you want to give the full season its due. You want to see a complete, start and a finish before you, allow yourself to make any complete conclusions to what's before your eyes, right? And I think there were a lot of bright spots at times throughout the year. I mean, if you look at the season, there were several games that were winnable. They were in the grasp or 3 quarters, whatever you want to call it. But just being able to finish, that was the bugaboo of this team. By second half, they were gassed. By fourth quarter, it was an avalanche. And it just seemed to be that pattern game after game. Now, to be fair, they did have a really tough stretch of games. Wazoo, Boise State, some of those teams that they had their wheels running. Their process and their new hires were already going. But we can look back and we can make all the excuses we want. We didn't see good football this year. SG Sports. I was going to call you K5 James. Shame on me. We did not
Train,
see good we
chain.
we did not see good football this year, Fiend, and that's so disappointing to the fan base. It's disappointing to nobody more than the players and the coaches. They expect a lot more of themselves than what was out there on the field, without a doubt. Um, so this first year in the Sean Lewis Aztec Fast era, I have to say it was a disappointment. Absolutely. You,
Yeah.
you don't expect to burn out the way that they did first year or not. Now, before I turn the mic over to you, Fiend, a little bit, Sons of Montezuma, with all that we've done or try to do, not trying to pop my collar or anything like that. I mean, we are essentially a supporters community, and so we always want to be a supporters community. Never any bashing of the student athletes, right? Coaches, fair game. Coaches, fair game. The way college football is now trending in the direction of NIL, of revenue sharing, the transfer portal, the closer we are getting to a professional model. But I still pride myself and Sons of Montezuma, what we've built here as a supporters community. I still pride ourselves on being fair, being maybe a little biased, right? Our NIL relationships we have with some of the players and their families. We want to do right by them, but at the same point in time, got to call it as it is. It's been told to me that our honesty on the show is a little too hard for some people to handle at times. But let me tell you, if you guys have been following the show for any considerable amount of time, this is what probably seventh year running. Um, I'm very proud of what we've been able to build here, especially on YouTube. Thank you guys for all your subscribers and your followers, and the community we built here online. Um, there are no real special how do you say connections. Like, we are not connected to the program. We are not officially endorsed or media accredited. So we're not insiders, but we give our honest and fair opinion. So, having said all that, let's keep it real, Fiend. So, to tie a bow on the season before we get into the transfer portal, before we get into the comings and goings, uh, give me your honest take on the way this first season of Aztec Fast football went in your eyes, Fiend.
I mean, honestly, it kind of reminded me of the first year of opening of Snapdragon Stadium. You got a shiny new stadium. You're excited to, fill that stadium up, get some victories, and then it just doesn't go the way you had hoped it, in its first year. I think the same thing is kind of true with this Sean Lewis regime year one. Shiny new offense, Aztec Fast. He really sold it to the fan base. We were all very excited to see what this offense could do compared to what it's been in past years, where it's been pretty vanilla, pretty boring. The defense was there, but the offense was lacking, and so for that to fall on its face, and then to have the regression that we had on defense to the point where we actually were worse this year than last year. Yeah, I'd have to say it's a big disappointment, because I don't think anyone, you know, including myself, thought that we would only win three games this year. No way. I mean, I thought at the very minimum we'd go like 6-6. So I gotta say 3-9 is yeah, it's a big disappointment. Were there things that factored into that made it difficult to get those wins? The injury certainly on the offensive line, especially early on, um, that was a big problem. The injury to Danny O'Neal, to his knee, which kind of limited his effectiveness running the ball. And so there were some things that, it had it been a better situation, we might have pulled out some more victories. But overall, yeah, I'd have to say that this season was not. I don't even think it's like a really it wasn't even really a good one, I guess, to build on. I mean, maybe to build on, but it's just the way it finished, 3-9. That it's disappointing. You don't want to go backwards year one.
No, I'll agree with you. I think you hit it right on the head there at the end. It didn't feel like it was a good one to build off of. Year one, you knew it was going to be a struggle, but when you saw the different players, Sean Lewis bringing in his guys, um, you figure, okay, there's going to be some experience in the scheme. You're not going to have the penalty issues that they certainly did have this year because you were bringing in a lot of familiar guys that knew the scheme, knew what you wanted to run, knew your cadences. And when that didn't happen, that was the first red flag as far as discipline, right? And then you would get a little pushback. Well, no, it wasn't discipline. It's learning the scheme. It's injuries, and all that plays into it for sure. And like I said in the opening little monologue there, there was a tough stretch of opponents there, right smack in the middle of the season. And the way I saw it was just momentum is a real thing. I know some of you guys don't believe in that momentum deal, but when you're dealing with young people, especially, uh, we're all emotional. But when you're of a certain age and you're out there on the field and in the classroom and in the halls and who knows what's going on in real life there on campus, right? Uh, uh, Emotions start to overrun and you can lose your cool, you lose your discipline. So after those games against Boise, especially Boise, I want to point to that one. It just felt like it didn't matter who we were going to play. It could have been a 3-win Utah State, could have been a very mid New Mexico team. It could have been, we were going to struggle with Hawaii. It didn't matter who we were going to play. We were going to struggle. It was going to be a struggle to win. And by the time we got to Air Force, I just knew. There's no momentum. There's nothing that they have built consistently to get you to Air Force that make you thought, oh, we're going to stop the triple option. We're going to be disciplined enough to hang with this Air Force team that was growing throughout the year. Well, you knew it wasn't going to happen, and I hate to say that. I hate to think that ways, but it was the truth, and you got to call it for what it is at this point. I mean, what's done has been done.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting that Air Force game. This team's been getting gashed up the middle on that defensive line, and then you go against a triple option. I mean, I don't think they really have much of a chance in that game. And so there's just so much that needs to change on this team, personnel wise, coaching wise. And I mean, I think it could be just an attitude as well, the belief in winning, the belief in, getting a 3-and-out stop. I just didn't feel like this team really had that. We just, on offense, we struggled. Like you said, the team would get gassed in the second half because the offense couldn't stay on the field and defense would, be on the field for too long. And then, so I think that really creeps into your mindset of being able to get stops on the field, and then, that carrying over into a sort of a winning mindset. And we definitely didn't have that this year. I think you have some holdovers from Hoke, on the team this year. Lewis wasn't able to get all of his guys year one, so we'll see
Well,
year two. He'll have his guys more.
let's address a little bit of that though, because that was an ongoing thing,
Yeah.
behind the scenes to me, as far as that mixing, that fusing together of Hoax guys, new guys. That's in every team, especially now in the transfer portal NIL era, especially now, right? I mean, that's always going to be the challenge for a coach. I'll tell you, I do not envy being a coach. Being a coach is one of the toughest jobs there is to do. You've got to be a teacher. You've got to obviously be solid in your scheme. You got to be able to teach it. Then you got to be able to inspire and motivate the guys to perform it well. You got to be a little bit of a psychologist there as well. So, the team dynamic is never easy. Believe me, I know. Keeping you and Mike Tortolot together and not biting each other's heads off, that's always nice little chore for me. But no, it's always a fun dynamic. It's a tough one, but that's on every team. Every team's going through the same dynamic all throughout the nation in this new landscape. So, okay, let's brush that aside a little bit. But the be the alpha mantra, right? Some of that kind of lingered in my head, and I was like, okay, you know what? Year one, it was tough. It was borderline disaster. But for Sean Lewis preaching the be the alpha mantra, okay, he pissed off a lot of people. He pissed off a lot of people this year one. A lot of disgruntled people, right? I think, I'll stand up and I'll say that. If you want to be the alpha, you got to do that though. So to a certain point, I just stood back and I said, okay, you know what? That's kind of cool. It may not go your ways, but if you're gonna be willing to stand as a leader, put your foot down, make the tough decisions, you might get burned. You might get burned by a couple of them. But if you know it's for the best of what you're trying to do in the long run, you're trying to set the standard, set the example, sit a guy if he doesn't perform, sit a guy if he breaks team rules, bench a guy or whatever have it be to set your standard. Okay, you're the alpha. You're the alpha dog. You're making the decision. I'm gonna ride with that, and you just have to trust the coach knows what he's doing, right? Now, so like I said, several of those things came back to bite in the end, but you just hope over the course of this new program that it pays off dividends, sets the standard for guys. We got a lot of defensive guys coming back. Let's transition over to that because last year's
say
done.
a little bit about that? I just wanted to
Ooh.
interject a little bit about that be the alpha
Bring it.
mentality.
Bring it.
Like I said, Coach Lewis did a great job of selling us all on, this vision and, these catchphrases and everything. Aztec fast, be the alpha. We didn't see it on the field. So moving forward, I think the fan base is going to have an expectation of more doing and less talking. Let's see it. Let's see the alpha. Let transform that into action on the field. And so that I think is what the fan base is being critical is, yeah, you can talk all you want, but if it's not translating into action on the field and success, then you're losing the fan base is not going to continue to buy into it. So that's on Lewis now to really, as he moves forward, to make sure that gets transferred from his mouth to the actions on the field.
And we've talked about this before. We've kind of recollected back on the Rocky Long days. And so I think coming from our perspective at the fan base, right, as a whole, when you have a coach like Rocky Long, and I'm gonna praise him a little bit because he deserves it. That stadium is the house that Rocky Long built. Don't ever forget it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
When you've had a coach like Rocky Long, that's a real alpha dog right there. That's a real alpha in the room. Doesn't have to say it.
Right.
Never had to say it.
Never. Not
never
once.
had to say it. And you come to appreciate that now. I hope all you guys truly did. I know I did. I was on board from day one. And obviously he worked himself up. And we can go back and talk about how that ended. Some people say, oh, can we bring Rocky Long back as the defensive court?
No.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not the way things ended. Not gonna happen. And plus, you don't want to do that. You gotta grow. You gotta grow. You gotta branch out as a program, as a staff, as his tree. But let's talk about that as we get into the comings and goings now, guy. That tree, that Rocky Long tree, that Brady Hoke tree, that tree still has a couple branches in the staff, right? But that's an interesting dynamic in itself, right? Trying to change the culture, trying to instill an alpha. Like I said, we didn't need to necessarily hear that type of thing, necessarily need to hear that type of talk in the culture because this program has had that alpha mentality. It's just not something that was professed.
They proved it on the field.
Right.
That's
well, it was just a different attitude. It was a different attitude. It wasn't a boasting.
They didn't have
it wasn't
to talk about it.
It wasn't that.
Went out and did it.
Yeah. So look, I'm trying not to pine for the old days too much. So let's move forward because this is where we're at. This is the reality. I'm looking at 13 players entering into the portal this offseason. That's what I'm seeing on 247, guys. And that's expected, right? That was definitely expected. But let's just get to it, guys. Today, Danny O'Neil enters into the transfer portal, and we will list some of the other ones in the transfer portal as well. They're not forgotten, of course, right? I mean, you talk about like Keenan Christian, you talk about Brady Anderson, you talk about a lot of different guys that entered into the portal, but Danny O'Neil was not expected. The other guys, all the best, they served a lot of their time here, but the writing was on the wall. Danny O'Neil was not expected. So now 3 quarterbacks from this class have entered the portal. That's Danny O'Neil today, Javance Tupuola Johnson before, and of course AJ Duffy, who we never got to see on the field. 3. And now there's only one quarterback on the roster that has any experience wearing the red and black, and that's Kyle Crum. Now, JP, I want to pronounce his name right, Muslovsky. Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up. But JP, he's coming in as a true freshman. Danny O'Neil as a true freshman, that shocked me when he was named the starter, to be honest. It was a big shocker to me. I think we all expected AJ to be in here. Before we go any further, I'm going to try and experiment a little bit. Sean from the Aztec Gamers, I want to try to bring him into the mix just a little bit. We'll see if his audio is good or anything like that. How are you doing, Sean? Thank you for joining us, man.
How you guys
From
doing?
the Gamers, the Gamers didn't get a chance to really end the season off on the right foot as well, so I wanted to bring him into the conversation. He's always brought us some really good feedback. But I know we've had a lot of conversations. AJ Duffy was not able to get on the field, and then when you throw Danny O'Neil into the mix as a true freshman, you knew it was going to be a learning curve year. You knew it was going to be a lot of growing pains, Fiend. You knew the new schematic, a new freshman quarterback. It was going to be one of those years that you needed to build upon. And now he's in the transfer portal. It's been reported, I think on3.com was the first to report it. And everybody has their speculation. I see it in the chat. I see you guys in the chat tonight. I see you guys. Everybody's got their speculation on why. Was it NIL? Was it for, butting heads with the offense? Sean, I'm going to put you on mute. I'll mute you when it's ready to talk. But it's one of those things where he told Kurt Kenny today, the beat writer, that it was to be closer to home, be closer to family, right? You want to play closer to home. He's gone through injuries this year. He had a shoulder operation in his non-throwing shoulder that nobody really knew about, right? College football is very good at not detailing those injury reports, right? That he consequently played on for the majority of the season. So right off the bat, you're scratching your head and you're like, well, I mean, if he needed surgery so bad, and he was playing on it all year, I get it's not the throwing shoulder. It's just one of those things, a little head scratcher. Why didn't we get more reps for Javance when this team obviously wasn't bowl eligible or what have you? A lot of different funny questions. And now you're seeing he's in the portal. This was the last thing any of us expected, him coming along with Sean Lewis. Sean, I'm going to give you your first thoughts there from where you at? Little Miss? You at Little Miss Brewing? Is that where you're at?
Yep. Yeah, Little Miss in La Mesa.
Cheers to
Holly's
everybody
hosting
down
trivia. But yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I was pretty surprised to see Danny O'Neil going in. The shoulder surgery to me wasn't that surprising. I will say that. He was wearing a left shoulder sling brace the entire second half of the year. And I mean, I think that was one of the big problems was you run a RPO run and gun, offense, and your quarterback doesn't want to get hit, so he never keeps the ball. So, I mean, thank God we had Cooper that could just pound it. And, I'm glad that out of the whole season, that's the only thing I'm really even happy about is Marquez Cooper got his flowers. He got to show off for, how good he is. And he was able to reach some, pretty great career stats, and good for him, Hopefully he gets a shot in the NFL. But, I mean, this whole Danny O'Neil situation, how do you not have a conversation with the guy before the season's over to know if he's going to stay? Because you're playing him hurt. So You don't let anybody else get any reps. You alienate the backup, so then they leave, and now he leaves, and now you're stuck with what? Like, I mean, yeah, Kyle Crum's still there. I mean, I guess you could take Threat and make him not a wide receiver anymore, make him go back to being a quarterback like he was in the beginning of the year. But it's just Aztec Fast. All I see that's Aztec Fast. This guy's leaving the program. I mean, it's a head scratcher to me. The entire all the guys that transferred on offense. I mean, if you knew they were going to transfer and it was a throwaway season where we're going to win 3 games and you're just not going to let anybody else get some reps. It's just I don't get it. You got to build something because now we're kind of back to square one.
Yeah. Fiend, you got anything on that or what he just said, or what's your take on the Danny O'Neil?
I mean, the whole situation kind of reminds me of Josh Simmons. You got a guy who is a highly rated recruit that comes in, plays as a true freshman, kind of struggles, but is developing, has shown glimpses, and then at the end of year 1, leaves. And so now you don't get to reap the benefits of that development. I know that's the, kind of what's going on in the portal nowadays anyways, but it's just really disappointing. And I would say Danny is probably the last person that I would have thought would be in the transfer portal just because of how tight he was with Lewis, how much playing time he got. Lewis Brown's another one. I mean, that guy got a ton of playing time over, guys who stuck it out like Mekhi Shaw, who didn't get much run this year, and he up and leaves, and so just leaving a big bad taste in my mouth. And I mean, I have no ill will against any of these players who leave. I have nothing against Danny. I'm sure he's making the right decision for him, but as a fan base, as a program, now I agree with Sean. We're starting from ground zero again, and they're going to have to just fill a lot of gaps in the transfer portal. So you're talking about, we'll see if they can get on the same page. That's the other thing is Lewis's system like maybe too complex that guys can't learn it fast enough, and that's why we have so many penalties and things like that, and things don't work. Or because you got to have a system where you're going to have a lot of rotation year to year with players going in and out, and so they got to be able to learn it quick, and they got to be able to execute. And I don't know moving forward if we're going to be able to achieve that.
I think one of the big questions, and I'll bring you in, Sean, here, with regarding Danny and his playing here, is that knowing he had that knee that was the issue with the brace on it or the wrap or whatever, and then hearing about the shoulder, and knowing that what you're saying, Fiend, the schematic, is it too much? Knowing that the schematic kind of, it had a lot of that those mesh plays where the quarterback could run those option plays, right? And knowing that Danny really didn't, he had a hitch in his giddy up, and then you got the shoulder. I mean, that shoulder is the non-throwing shoulder, but that's going to affect everything that you do, how you slide, the moves you make. If you're protecting a certain side, if you're going to favor that when you're running. So knowing that in the scheme, the quarterback couldn't really even operate 100% to what you want to do in the scheme. What are your thoughts on that, Sean? And I want to bring up Kevin Wilson. Thank you for joining, man. I recognize he says this is NIL and portal. You don't get the building excuses. You have to win now. Let it rip, Sean. Let it rip.
I mean, I like the idea of our offense, but I definitely get what you're saying. Like, it's really complicated for guys to pick it up. And I mean, if you're an offensive lineman, you're kind of in a crappy situation from the get-go because, I mean, you don't know what's going on behind you. So you have to pass block and run block on every play. And then, if a read is late, then you hold, and then you end up with all these penalties. And so, I mean, there's a lot going on. But I also think that, the concept of Aztec Fast means move fast, play fast, right? So you would think that you'd want more guys playing. That way more guys would learn the system. But if you're only playing the same handful of dudes, then now what? Like your backups, like you said, all the guys that didn't get to play this year, now they have to try to put it, on the field. And they have only done it in practice, which, I mean, that's going to be tough. I feel like I don't know. I was excited when we got Sean Lewis because with Hoke I always complained about there was no fire, there was no passion. He just kind of seemed kind of fine with mediocreness, which he was just kind of playing out the string and whatnot. But Sean Lewis, he talks a lot. Like Fiend says, I mean, show it on the field. You don't tell everybody you're the alpha male. You just are the alpha male. That's how that usually goes. And if every game 6 weeks in a row that you lose, you go into the post game press conference and you say you didn't do a good enough job. Eventually, you're not going to have a job because that's not a good excuse. Like if you're not putting people in a position to win, then something needs to change. And if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, nothing's going to change. So, I mean, the NIL stuff right now is just chaotic to me. I mean, I just would think you'd have to have a lot more transparency with your players. Like, I don't know how you have a guy that you give the keys to the program because you recruited him to Colorado and then you brought him here. And so you let him do whatever he wants. And then he leaves. And, I mean, Danny is doing what's best for Danny. So I agree with Fiend. No ill will towards any of these guys. They got to do what's best for them. But that just is, if the number one guy that basically Sean Lewis put his back on, is leaving, that's kind of a huge red flag. Because, I mean, what if you're just some other guy on the team, that you were a Hoke guy or I'm kind of surprised Napier came back, to be honest, after how well he played. So, I mean, there's so many moving parts to this that is so different than how it used to be that I just hope Sean Lewis can figure something out because right now he's not brewing very much confidence with fans. I mean, you see it everywhere. People are pissed. People aren't renewing season tickets. People are angry.
I got you. Sean, thank you for joining, man. I'm going to let you run. It sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun over there. Say what's up to Holly for me.
All right, will do. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Good seeing you, Sean.
See you, bud.
Take it easy.
So, there you have it. Thanks to Big Sean. Wanted to bring him in, man. And Aztec Gamers didn't get to end the season the way we wanted. But he brings up some good stuff, man, there at the end. I like that as far as with the NIL and transparency. And to everybody, I how do you say? I want to give Danny some credit today for responding to me, getting back to me today. I wanted to confirm with him personally whether when the reports were coming out, you were seeing things on social media. But I don't see anything coming from Danny's accounts, his socials. Wanted to confirm with him, and thanks to him, he was nice enough. I know it was a crazy day for him, so nice enough to get back to me and confirm it with me, and just said he appreciated what Sons of Montezuma did for him this year, and likewise, I appreciated him and his family. They definitely showed a lot of support to what we were doing and what we continue to do as a supporters community, the NIL shop. What we're doing tonight, and that's just giving you guys a voice to the fans and just being real, just being completely honest with you guys. Now, I hear what Sean is saying, right? Coach Lewis brought Danny in from Colorado, hinging, the program, the keys to the kingdom to move this Aztec fast Ferrari and take it as far as you can go. And now he's gone. There's no sugarcoating this. That's a tough one. I'm with you. Angelica. I want to see how Coach responds in the media. There's going to be some big questions. That next press conference is going to be interesting. Of course, they're not going to let us in the media. We're not going to be able to get a question off. So it's all good. This is what we have. So, but having said that, guys, it's one guy. Now at San Diego State, we all are dying for the day that we have a prototypical quarterback again. It's been quite a while, right? And we've had some outstanding performances through these past few years. Guys like Moose Maiden, guys like Lucas Johnson, of course, you can take it back to Mr. Chapman winning championships, right? But in Southern California, we've got a lot of open opportunities now for a quarterback. You should be able to find at least one. Should be able to find at least two. maybe even 3, Fiend. We're in Southern California, San Diego, a team that's about to be in the Pac-12, an NIL budget that, by all reports, people are telling me things are going well. There's some money in the coffers. Like Sean said, Jordan Napier's back. I'm excited about that. That kid is a stud.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. You still got to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's year one, off season one. Let's see who they bring in. Do you think they bring in? Obviously, you got to bring in some experience. You got no experience. And listen, I want to see Kyle Crum get a shot. I want to see him get an honest, fair shake shot. The dude's a good dude.
He is.
I have seen him work his tail off on and off the field, right? He's doing some creative things with his podcast over there with the link, I believe. So, I appreciate that, man. You got to respect a guy who's not getting those QB1 opportunities, but he's putting in the work. So, want him to get a fair shot, but you got to bring in some experience. You got to bring in some transfers.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll get a fair shot just based on what we saw with Javance, as a holdover, and Lewis is going to bring in his guys. And that's not to say anything, against Kyle Crum. And I honestly, any guy who stays here for that many years as an Aztec, man, I love him, but I'm not making those decisions to put him on the field. Right. So when it comes to finding the right quarterback, I'll be quite honest. I'm not sure Danny was the right quarterback for this system. Just because it requires a triple threat, you have to have a running quarterback.
Which is wild. That is a wild thing to say, Fiend. That is a crazy thing to say.
Why is it crazy?
Now, I'm not telling you you're wrong.
I mean, I don't think.
Not telling you you're wrong.
I think Danny is more, just from what I've seen, I think Danny is more fit. He'd fit better in like a 5 wide, air raid offense where he's just slinging it. And we were begging for that during the season, but the fact that Sean brought it up with the injured knee, with the injured shoulder, he was hesitant to pull the ball. And defenses were keying on Cooper, and he was getting a lot of carries, but they were tough yards because there were so many guys in the box trying to stop him, and you didn't have a quarterback who was kind of alleviating that pressure by tucking, pulling it and running to keep the defense honest. And so I think that we're going to need a more, a quarterback who can run more, and maybe a bigger quarterback who can withstand the hits. No offense to Danny, but he's a true freshman. He graduated high school early. He's still filling out his body, and so as we saw this year, he had a hard time taking those hits.
Yeah.
So that's the type of quarterback that I would like to see, Lewis get, and I think it would be a better fit for what he runs. So there's plenty of quarterbacks out there that can do that. We'll see it, if they want to come to San Diego State, though. I mean, I don't know.
Like I said, the opportunities are there. The opportunities are there.
I think this program, what it really needs to do, though, is it really needs to develop a culture of wanting to stay. You're seeing that at like Boise State. You're seeing guys like Ashton Genty saying, you know what? No, I want to stay at Boise State because I feel like we got something special here, and I'm going to turn down the money to go to a Power 4 program. And you're seeing a lot of that within their program. The guys, they're not all exiting out. Maybe the guys who are not getting playing time, but that's what I would like to see build here. Is not just, how can I use San Diego State so that I can get to the Power 4 league and get a paycheck.
3 things you got to do to accomplish what you just said, Fiend. And you're talking about basically building a culture that's going to want to make these guys stay.
Yeah.
In the NIL era, good luck, right? It's going to be tough. If you got some dollars, which San Diego State is going to have, you got an advantage over your peers at this level. So I'm not saying that's the wrong approach, but what I am saying, there's right off the top of my head, there's 3 things you got to do in order to create that culture, that environment where players are going to want to stay. Number one is the most basic thing. It's the most basic thing. You got to make the games and everything that revolves around football, you got to make it fun. I don't care who you are. If you're a young person, you want to be around a fun atmosphere, a fun football atmosphere. I'm not talking about just what's on the Jumbotron. I'm not just talking about, smoke and mirrors. It's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a concerted effort to bring in the community, to bring in whether it's Greek life, whether it's alumni, whether it's lowering ticket prices, because let me tell you, that's going to dictate a lot of your fun you have at that stadium. Knowing that you're not taking a mortgage out of your house just so you could. Now, I know Kai said the other day it's not that expensive compared to the NFL, and I agree. But that's a big part of it. You got to create that game day atmosphere. I know they tried some certain things this past season, right? Second thing is obviously NIL. You got to have the NIL in place, or whether it's revenue sharing, whatever the steps are to be ahead of the curve, they got to do it. And I believe they are doing it. At least I hope they are doing it. And another thing, well, how do you say it? When it comes to a staff, so you brought up Ashton Genty, and we were talking about that. He may very well win the Heisman up there at Boise. Let me tell you, that's going to make me so sick. I'm going to be so sick to my stomach. I think he's going to win it, though. I do. I think he's going to win it. He's not going to be compared to Marshall Faulk like what everybody's saying. He's going to get the Faulk treatment. He's going to get that. I think he's going to win it personally because Boise's been on the map for a while now. Their brand is known. And that staff, Dirk Cutter, their offensive coordinator, that's a big reason why Ashton Genty is there. The NIL money, because they're paying him at least $1 million to stay there. Dirk Cutter is there this year to be with Ashton Genty, and then he's probably retiring or he's out again. I mean, he's in and out. He's taking a pay cut just to be there. Like, he loves Boise State enough to be there for this year to make sure that the program is on good footing because they just brought in, elevated their coach after they kind of flamed out the last few years. So that support staff is huge. When you look back at Aztec football culture, you had a few guys on that staff that were either former head coaches, have had that head coaching experience. We won championships when you had caliber seasoned guys. Now, that's no knock on anybody on staff right now, but it is a factor. It's a factor that will make guys stay. Players want to be somewhere where they know they're going to be coached for the next level, where there's going to be a fun environment, college environment with your peers, with the students, with the community, with the fan base, and then, of course, the NIL. Those three things, that's like pretty basic as much as you can get. Easier said than done. But the staff is so critical, man. And we also just learned that the defensive coordinator, everybody's talking about the defense, they gave us a fighting chance. Defensive coordinator, he's now taking a head coaching job at an FCS level, but it's his home alma mater, right? North Dakota or so. You can't totally begrudge him. That's tough. You get to run your own program. No hard feelings on that one, but it's a shot. It's another shot. He was like an associate head coach, I believe, right? Coach Schmidt. The talk is that they are interviewing. Some have said the Edges coach, Rob Aurick, has got the inside track. Of course, he's been here. Real big personality guy. Really, really enjoyed what I heard from him at the meet and greets that we would. So that's great. That's all fine. Seems like he's got a good pulse on his team, right? This defense is coming back. So that's a big deal. But
Yeah.
when you look from top to bottom, this is going to be an area that it may very well judge the progress of this program is top to bottom on this staff. How is each position holding up? Are they developing? And I'm saying it right now. You can't play true freshmen anymore. You cannot start true freshmen. Not in this NIL era, guys. I'm sorry. I love our local guys. If we got a stud, maybe you consider it. But in this NIL era, I don't think you can afford as a G5 to start another true freshman. You got to get at least a couple years of development out of them. Am I wrong for saying that? Am I wrong for saying that, Fiend?
No, I mean, especially at probably the most important position on the field at quarterback. You know, you can start a true freshman maybe at wide receiver, you know, safety, something like that. But at quarterback, unless the guy is like top 5 in the country, I think Danny O'Neal and that Dylan Raiola might have been the only 2 true freshmen to start. Dylan Raiola was like one of the top recruited quarterbacks in the country. So I'm not saying that Danny shouldn't have started, but yeah, I think you got to bring in experience in this day and age. You have to have an experienced quarterback, like we said, because you don't have the time to gel as a team like you've maybe had in the past when, you know, most of your unit will have stayed multiple years.
Guys, so let's just give a brief rundown on the other names in the portal, just to be fair, because Jalen Armstead, terrific running back in the portal. I felt he should have got some carries, right? Philip Wesley, wide receiver. Seen Bennett Walker. Of course, we talked about Javance Johnson, AJ Duffy, Keenan Kristen. I mean, just a tough break the beginning of the year. Before the year started, he gets injured with an ankle, was never able to come back, and by the time he probably would have been able to come back, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So for him, all the best. Like I said, man, Lewis Brown, such a bright spot during this season. In the portal again. Ezekiel Larry, Dominic Oliver, Wyatt Drager, one of our NIL guys for sure. Balin Brooks, that was before the season pretty much got going. Another talented receiver out. So Brady Anderson has been re-offered to come back at the linebacker spot. That's an interesting one to me. Would love to see that, of course, but just kind of a head scratcher. Like, okay, well, why wasn't he protected to come back in the first place? So we'll see. A lot of different things gonna come about in these next couple weeks. Got to get a new DC, like you said, and well, just got to get solid. Got to get solid. Got to get a solid footing. What's the foundation? Got to get it, and we'll be keeping our eyes open. Next week, guys, are going to be sitting down, hopefully, with Coach C, and we are going to go down through the list of all of the early National Signing Day freshmen that will be coming in that are been signed. Exciting class. Like I said, guys, all opportunity. There is so much opportunity at San Diego State right now. All these freshmen are going to get theirs. And from everything we've seen, it's a talented class, very line heavy. So coach knows he's got to address the lines on both ends to get bigger, stronger, all that good stuff. It's all there in front of us. It's all there in front of us. We're in Southern California. Got to make it happen. So hopefully next week we'll be able to talk about all those incoming freshmen. And the portal's open. So we will see who's going to be taking visits, right? We've been seeing a lot of running backs, a lot of different people, notable people, quarterbacks being put up on the portal. You know, it works both ways. Absolutely works both ways. But this is college football, guys. This is college football. Things got to change. Things got to change. And it is changing. But until they get a wrap, you know, in the chat, Illuminati's talking about contracts so that this type of thing doesn't happen. I don't know how you're going to instill that until they instill revenue sharing. Then maybe you'll get contracts. Maybe you'll have the transfer. You won't be able to transfer certain guidelines. We all know that needs to change because even though the playoffs is a I think a big improvement to the national stage level of college football. This transfer portal is just not. It's not the business, guys. It's gonna fragment a lot of fandom, I think, out there. Or maybe I got it completely wrong, guys. Maybe this is just gonna make everybody jump on board even that much more because it's gonna be every year, wheeling and dealing, free agency. Who knows who's gonna be on what team, wearing what jersey? Forget pride and tradition. Forget standards and keeping your commitments. The coaches have been doing it for a long time, Fiend. Why can't the players, right?
Hey, the bottom line is winning. If you're winning, then you have no issues with the current landscape of college football. So that's the bottom line. Is it's wins. It's bowl games. It's getting to the college football playoff. That's what matters.
Yeah. I don't blame any of the players because we don't know their story. That's for sure, T Mac. And I said it out there on the Twitter sphere on Sons of Money. Make sure you guys give us a follow, Sons of Money, on X, Instagram, Facebook, all that. But we said it. Those guys coming back, I can name a few of them right now. Chris Johnson, Tano Latuli, Trey White. Got several guys coming back. Ross Masuli. If San Diego State is going to return to the glory days in football under the coach Sean Lewis era, those are going to be the names that we will remember. The guys that decided to come back, had the opportunity, and they want to take the opportunity as far as they can. Not everybody's in the same position. I get it. But these are the guys. These are the ones. So you got to remember that. The foundation. And it's majority on defense. But shout out to all those guys coming back. There's still a couple I'm not 100% sure on. Trying to get the insider information if they're coming back. But not an easy decision. Definitely don't begrudge anybody for leaving. Got to do what's best for you in your football journey. But boy, they got to figure this thing out. College football's got to figure this thing out. Woo! All right, guys. Thank you for sticking around for so long. It's been a while since we've done one of these football episodes. We want to thank you for all your support this past football season. It was a tough one. Some people have fallen by the wayside, but they know they're deep down still bleeding Aztec red. They just, boy, got to start winning. Got to start winning. Quick reminder, if you are in the San Diego area, Fiend, you're going to be up in San Jose for the basketball game on the 21st, December 21st. If you're going up to San Jose, make sure you hit up Fiend. And I know you guys are going to be doing some Mesa Foundation fun stuff up there against Cal. But if you're in San Diego, stop on by Citizen Brewery. That's off Mission Gorge Road. We're going to be having a watch party. It's going to be like a Christmas party / watch party / beer release party. And we're just going to have a good time. But this is what we like to do. Build community, get to know each other. It definitely helps during these long football seasons. Get to watch basketball do their thing. And boy, they're doing their thing. Last night, taken down. Was that last night, really? Man.
Yeah.
Jeez. Last night. This day's been so long. It doesn't feel like 24 hours. Taking down Cal Baptist. We won't get into all that because we're pushing an hour, but almost blew a 19-point lead, Fiend. Woo! Was that a bad win, dude? Was that a bad win?
Never a bad win. Never a bad win. But not the way I'd hoped it would go.
Win, baby. Just win, baby. Just win. I get it. Yeah, they got a little dicey there at the end. Got a little dicey, but the guys prevailed and some good teachable moments. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to sign off. We thank you guys for hearing us out, all your comments. Make sure you guys tell a friend, another Aztec friend, about the Sons of Montezuma podcast, the NILshop.com for all of our articles, previews, recaps, all that fun stuff. And, of course, on social media. We'll see you guys December 21st. Have a great night. Keep the faith. Aztec for life. Go Aztecs.
Thanks for joining us. Go Aztecs.
See you.